بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I'll just start with some salat ala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam for the advent of the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, which is just around the corner, starting on Saturday night. So, and also because we are on the eve of Friday, so Friday is always a day of salawat, of sending peace and blessings to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and reviving our connection to him. So we'll just start with that, inshallah, and you can join in. Bismillah. Does anyone want to suggest a particular sigha, like a particular phrase? Because there are all kinds of ways to send blessings on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a very simple way, and then there are more poetic ways. And is there one that you like in particular that you would like us to do? Has anyone been doing one recently in preparation for this month?
There was one that I heard recently, but it's a bit long. If I remember correctly, اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها.
Yes. Would you like to teach us that one? Do you want us to do that one? We can do that one. So that one is one that's really related to healing, and so it's Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad طب القلوب ودوائها. So the medicine of hearts and their healing, طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها, the well-being of bodies and their medicine, or their healing again, شفائها. So طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها, the light of eyes and their illumination, and upon his family. Yes, but I just wanted you to know the meaning before we start saying it. So I'll say it slowly and you can just jump in. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها عافية الأبدان وشفائها نور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah. So Alhamdulillah, we're in the holiday season. This is the time of the holy day of the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, which is of course the birth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we're now in the holiday period for Muslims, the time of great celebration for us, the time of great recollection of that event which changed the entire universe and changed our lives and allowed us to be who we are today and allowed us to wish to be better people, and is the beginning of all the khair that we find in our world today. The Prophet ﷺ is the source of all the khair that we find in our world today, just as any prophet is the source of all the goodness that is left in any community that he is sent to. So alhamdulillah, it is out of the greatness of the Prophet ﷺ that we have good people in the world today, be they Muslim or not. It is out of the greatness and the light that the Prophet ﷺ brought that we have people doing good in the world today, that we have good projects going on, that we have people who care about the environment, that we have people who care about being charitable. All of this is flowing from that one source of light that entered this universe with the birth of the Prophet ﷺ after a time of darkness, a period of darkness, when the teachings of Sayyidina Aissa alayhi salam, the brother of Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ, had been lost and became buried under people's egos and the outcome of people behaving based on their ego. And so alhamdulillah, whenever we see people behaving in ways that are not egocentric, this is always coming from the Prophet who was sent to them. And in our case, Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ is the Prophet who was sent to all of humanity, not just Muslims. So everything that we see in the world around us that is positive is from that divine manifestation of Allah's Rahma that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to bring into existence for us to all experience and us to all benefit from. So this is why the Mawlid is such a big deal. This is why it is so important for us to celebrate this occasion and to consider it our holiday, and to not feel shy about that, and to really take delight in that, and to really put up lights for that, and to really smile about that. And this is part of our tradition. This is not something new. This is something that's always been there, this celebration of guidance, celebration of God's grace in sending a prophet to humanity. Alhamdulillah. So, but we live in such a special time. We live in this special time during which so many of those natural and I would say practices that are intrinsic to Islam have been removed from people's understanding of Islam. So we live at a very special time when it matters even more that we show happiness during this month, because people have tried very hard to tear away feelings of happiness that Muslims had for centuries during this time when they thought about how this was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was born, and that natural joy that you feel when you think about the birthday, or when the birthday comes of anyone who you love, be it your child, or be it your spouse, or be it your parent. A normal human being feels a sense of gratitude that this day occurred, and that on this day this person came into the world. Be it your teacher, be it whoever. So this is a very natural thing, and it's of course magnified when this is not just any person, this is a person who completely has turned your life around. Contact with him turns your life around. Right? He is the way that you can know how to get back to Allah. Without him, you would be living a life of sin. So there is a natural joy that has to be accompany this time of year for us. And as I said, we're very, in a certain way, we're kind of privileged, even though we've not been given perhaps a natural experience in our childhoods of what it means to celebrate the Mawlid. Nonetheless, we are always privileged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what our circumstances. Each circumstance carries with it its own blessings. And I think it's actually a great blessing to be at a time when each action you do is so important. And each means that you take and each effort that you make to bring back a sense of joy to Muslims regarding this time of year means that much more, because there was such a great effort, and there is still such a great effort to take away people's feeling of joy and to take away people's sense of connection to the Prophet ﷺ. So each and every one of us here, we have a great role to play. We have a great role to play in showing our children what this time of year means, in sharing with our neighbors what this time of year means, and so on and so forth, and of course starting with ourselves. One of the most important things that we can do for the Mawlid is to just be happy in ourselves. Just to display happiness. Just to make an effort to smile and to actually remind yourself that I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to be happy about this occasion, even though I did nothing to make it happen. And we are raised in a society where you're only, and we're raised even with a version of Islam that says you're only allowed to be happy if you've accomplished something. You can't be happy just like that. Or you can't be happy. I mean, when I was a child, for example, at some point my dad came home and said, we're not celebrating birthdays anymore. And the reasoning behind it was, you didn't do anything. It's just your birthday. Like, why would we celebrate it? You didn't even do anything special. You just happened to be born on that day. So, we'll celebrate when you do well at something, when you do well in school or whatever. That's something that you celebrate. But why celebrate a birthday? It's got almost nothing to do with you. It's just something that happened. It's just a destiny that was manifested. So this kind of mentality, it's there in some of us that, I can only celebrate if I've finally accomplished something in my life, or if I've reached a goal, then I can celebrate. But this is a beautiful occasion that's calling upon us to actually come out of ourselves and just be happy about the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works and the glory that He brings to His message and to Himself. And we have a beautiful dua like that the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm not able to praise you as you praise yourself. So really what we can witness in paying attention and showing joy at the fact that there is a Prophet ﷺ and that we have access to him is that we can celebrate God's glorification of His word and of His way. And it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself who did it. Yes, we have nothing in that sense to do with it. I didn't bring that occasion about. But I am a witness to that beauty. And I'm a witness to that glory. And that is enough for me. That's enough for me. Even if I look at my own self and I find that there are multiple things that I'm not good at, and there are many ways that I'm not reaching whatever goals I have, or whatever it is that you feel about yourself, this is a time to be happy, to actually come out of yourself and just look at the world in the big picture of what it is. It's beyond you. The greatness of the Prophet ﷺ, the unfolding of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His prophets, it's for us just to look at and find awe in ourselves at the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes His will manifest, and that He brings guidance and goodness to people, and to ask to be part of that. And the beginning of being part of that is to actually show happiness, because if you claim that you're so engaged in, let's say, da'wah, or your main thing is that you want to share the beauty of Islam with other people, if you're not even happy that you have a Prophet, people are not going to be able to get past that, to be honest with you. They won't be able to get past the fact that you're not even happy that you have a Prophet. So what exactly do you want to share with anyone if you don't see this as a big deal, if you don't see the fact that a messenger was sent, and that the whole issue, the whole I guess, question for most people is around Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you're thinking about da'wah to people who don't profess to be Muslims, the central question is Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because most people believe in a creator. But the question is, can I follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So everything for us has to begin and end here, in this relationship that we have with the Prophet ﷺ. And it has to become a relationship of joy. So one of the most beautiful teachings around this time is about Abu Lahab, and how when the Prophet ﷺ was born and that news was brought to him, to Abu Lahab, who was an uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, he was so happy with the birth of this baby that he freed the slave who brought him the news. The girl who had brought him the news was his slave, and he was so happy, he said, "You're free. Out of my joy at this occasion, you're free." Which is a big deal at that time. That was a big thing to do, and it was a real sign of true happiness and joy. And for subhanAllah, there is a teaching around this or a narration that somebody saw Abu Lahab after he had passed from this world, and we know that he is someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned to the hellfire. We know that in the Quran, it's clear. And subhanAllah, somebody asked Abu Lahab, the person who was seeing the dream said, so because you were always someone who denied Allah and you denied this message, what did you find when you finally left this dunya and came face to face with reality? And he said, yes, I do find myself in a state of being punished by God, but every Monday my punishment is lightened a little bit, because it was on Monday that the Prophet ﷺ was born, and it was on that Monday that I showed that joy and liberated this slave of mine. So this act that I did, because it's attached to the Prophet ﷺ, has been my one source of relief. So all of this is something that is used by the scholars to talk about the value of simply being joyful, and simply being joyful as you witness the beauty of the Prophet ﷺ and the greatness of the Prophet ﷺ, before you start to jump into how much am I following him, how much am I following him, how much am I following him. Allow yourself to first start to admire him. Allow yourself to then start to fall in love with him. And then you will find that it will be that much easier to follow him. It will come naturally. It won't be a big struggle. But we have to take a step back, and this month allows us that great blessing of really entering into a state of reflection, rather than, again, being so obsessed about our own track record or our own list of deeds. This is a month of coming together to honor the Prophet ﷺ, to celebrate the blessing of having a Prophet ﷺ. And it's so beautiful that we do it so often together in a gathering where you sometimes you forget your own self, you forget the limits of your own self, because you're just lifted up in the joy of other people around you and in the spirit of the gathering, and recognizing that everything that's going on here is to recognize the divine grace that has been visited upon us, and that continues to flow, and that's still available even now. And celebrating the people in our community who spend their time saying Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad every day and every night, recognizing those people, and those people join those gatherings during this month, and we feel that boost of energy that comes from the presence of those kinds of people with us, and our own feelings get renewed, our feelings of love towards the Prophet ﷺ and of appreciation for all that he's done for us and that he continues to do. Because as we said, that link between the Prophet ﷺ and us, it's unbroken. It's still there, and it's still revived every time we say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, every time we say Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam after his name, after his blessed name, he responds to us. He's constantly responding to us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What more could you ask for? What else is there that's better? This is the salam and the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, the most beloved to Allah. What are you going to be able to accomplish running after your own list of deeds if you can't put your heart into this, which is a guaranteed answer? It's a guaranteed gift from someone who is very beloved to Allah. And when people who are very beloved to Allah make dua and ask for something for you, it's answered. This is our belief. There is a hierarchy spiritually. We're not all equal. I'm not equal to the Prophet ﷺ. My dua for myself is nothing like his dua for me. Absolutely not. We have to be honest and we have to be clear about this in our minds. So we have to take advantage and find joy in our connection to him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we have to think about how we're not yet in the month of the Mawlid yet. It's starting, inshallah, as I said, in a few days. Maybe in these few days that we have before that time is a time of, mashallah, spending extra moments and hours, hopefully, saying Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Try to give yourself a kind of a goal to do that. MashaAllah, there are many beautiful projects that go on all over the world where they collect or they encourage you to do a certain number of salawat, and you can send it in and say, I did 100 today, and you're adding to, let's say, a campaign of 10 million salawat for the Prophet ﷺ, of people doing that all around the world. All of these things are just to encourage you to engage deeply in this practice of salat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so it's a month, inshallah, when you'll be deeply inside that space of dhikr and contacting the Prophet ﷺ from your soul to his soul. But before we go into that state, inshallah, it's a good time to really ask ourselves, what is our relationship right now with the Prophet ﷺ? So that when we come out of this month, we can again ask that question and we can see, inshallah, how much it's changed during this month. So maybe we can just take a few moments to consider, what's my relationship with the Prophet ﷺ? What is it characterized by? What are the emotions that characterize that relationship? Right? Because every relationship we have is characterized by certain feelings, right? Certain emotions. If you have, sometimes you have someone and just seeing their name appear in your WhatsApp list or in your text messages gives you joy, before you even see what they wrote to you. Other people, when their name comes, you feel a sense of, I'm sure there'll be good news from this person. This person is always sending positive messages or something supportive. They have a message of support. So, and another person you might feel a little bit shaky, and you might even say to yourself, I'm not going to open their message till later. I hope they don't see that I'm online right now. Subhanallah. How is our relationship with the Prophet ﷺ? What is it characterized by? Is it characterized by that kind of anticipation of good? When somebody tells you, there is a hadith that says, are you in that moment feeling anticipation? Oh, what is it going to be this time in this beautiful hadith? Or is it kind of a dull feeling, or is there just a neutral feeling, or is there a feeling of, I wonder how this translation is going to be, right? So try to just take a few moments to think about what are the emotions. We all know, everybody knows intellectually, this is our Prophet ﷺ, alayni wa rasi, right? Above my head and above my eyes and above everything, absolutely. Intellectually we all agree. But what's going on inside? What's that part that perhaps we need to develop and cultivate? The emotional and the soul connection. So I'll just give us a few moments to consider that. What I'd like to talk about now with you, after you've had some time to consider this, and of course I encourage you to, in your khalwa, if you're going to be able to do maybe 10 minutes of khalwa, your retreat, between now and the start of this month, that I would encourage you to think about this question and to allow yourself to reflect on this question more deeply. Obviously, the 1 minute that I gave you is not sufficient for that. But what I'd like to talk about now with you is, if anybody wants to share a turning point in your relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this is a relationship that keeps growing and deepening, and so maybe you have something that you can share with us about how your understanding of what this relationship was supposed to be developed, or a certain specific moment that had a big impact on your relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm thinking of a song that my teacher in Syria wrote, and it really opened my eyes to the fact that this is a relationship that has to grow. It's not a static relationship. And the words of the song were, when I first heard of you, you were warm and wise, but I felt no depth. I felt no connection to your words. And then the song talks to the Prophet. So, "O Prophet, peace be upon you and your family. Reach into my life with your light. Show me how to follow your way." And so on and so forth. And the song continues. So when I first heard about you, when I first taught about you, when I first visited you, and then by the end of the song, that connection is there, and I felt washed with the tide of your love. And so this really made me realize that first of all, I can acknowledge that I'm in a place where I'm not moved as I should be by the words and the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, that I see him as someone wonderful, but I'm not able to connect. And then secondly, that this is something that grows as one interacts more with the words of the Prophet ﷺ and the words of other people who are teaching us about him, and then also our own words of Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, that eventually this tide of love is waiting to wash us, and then we'll be in that ocean, inshallah, of his love. So I guess apart from that song, another thing that really changed it was also in Syria at the beginning. Of course, there are many points, turning points in one's relationship with the Prophet ﷺ. But I remember that it was the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, and it was summer in that year in Syria, and I was there, and I had just arrived maybe about 3 weeks before that. And I remember that someone, one of the girls I was with, who was from America, was like, yeah, this is, the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal is coming up tomorrow. And I was like, oh, really? Like, are we supposed to fast or something? Like, I didn't know anything about it. And she was like, oh, it's the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ. And I was like, oh, so what are we supposed to do? And then she was like, well, we're going to a little gathering tomorrow, so you can come. And I was like, oh my God, really? We're allowed to celebrate it? I was so happy. I was like, oh my God. And I felt like I was being given permission to love the Prophet ﷺ and not just be very formal with him. And it was really strange when I think back, because I don't know why I felt so much joy. No one had ever told me, you can't, or I didn't really even know what it was, but that feeling that we could actually participate in something that is so personal in a way. It's so deeply connected. It's not about rules. It's not about, you fasted a whole month, so now you're allowed to have one day of Eid. It was none of those things. It was just completely like, yeah, because we have a Prophet ﷺ, and we're allowed to be happy about that. So that was another really big sort of turning point in my mind about, okay, there's a completely different way of interacting. And then of course when I went to that Mawlid, and the kinds of stories that were told about the Prophet ﷺ, about the tree trunk that cried for him, and all of that started to take me on another journey. Alhamdulillah. And I remember one of my teachers, after So there were two teachers in the room, and one of them was telling the story, and then the other one, at the end of it, she was like, where did you go? Where did you travel during this gathering? SubhanAllah, we do travel in these gatherings. So sometimes we go very, very far spiritually, SubhanAllah. A story can take us to completely new heights. So we have to, alhamdulillah, see that this is a month that is full of those opportunities, inshaAllah, to really travel towards the Prophet ﷺ internally. But there are many stories like that I could tell you. Those are just, from the very, I would say, beginning of when I first started to realize I could have a relationship with the Prophet ﷺ that went beyond text. But I would love to hear from you what kinds of experiences you've had which have really deepened your relationship with the Prophet ﷺ, taken you from one level to another, at least in your understanding. Does anyone want to share something with us? You need the mic.
Assalamu alaikum. So, I had two turning points in my relationship to the Prophet ﷺ. The first one, when I heard someone talking about dreaming of him. For me, he's the Prophet and he's our master in everything, but for me like a human being, like just sitting in front of me, telling me that I saw him, he told me this, he did this. For me, this was, wow, this could happen on earth now? For me, since this day, I was like, so there is hope, inshallah, for people like me. So we should stick to this hope. That was the first point. And the second point, honestly, when I came to Canada, in Egypt, it's entirely different. Streets are decorated, special suites, special family members come and visit you, and we have like halawat al-mulad. It's only made during the month, only. Like I don't know even how can we translate halawat al-mulad to English.
Mawlid candy, yeah.
Mawlid candy, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a mawlid candy, and it's special. You can never find it all year round. For me, I felt like I want this. I want to have. It has nothing to do with him in particular, but it's the feeling that people, it's a super special celebration for all of us, and inshallah we can bring it, inshallah.
Ameen, inshallah. Yeah. Noor, how are you?
Well, when I think of a turning point, the memory that pops into my head was the first showcase that I went to for the Letters of the Beloved at Ottawa U. It was at that like underground cafe thing, and I wasn't gonna go. I remember I wasn't gonna go, and I showed up looking like a bum, and I was just like, I'm just gonna come and sit in the back and listen and see what this is about. And just listening to people's expressions of their relationships kind of opened my eyes to the reality that there could be a relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the sense that I'd always thought of him in my childhood or whatever as an example to follow, but not as still living, as having a role to play in our spiritual journey, an active role to play, not just like this is the example that you should aspire to. Of course, we definitely should have that as well, but it was different. It was the idea that this is a person that you can turn to for support and know that you'd get it, even if you can't see it. And it was a comforting feeling, and it was also just very different, because it is very different than what you grew up with. So I think that since then it's changed the track that I'm on, that I actually think about that question occasionally. Be like, okay, well, I'm not cultivating this relationship. I need to do better, or to make dua for this. Like, I never would have thought of making dua that Allah make me have a good relationship with the Prophet, or to keep me close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's now a regular thing in my, and it's just weird to think that how different people can learn Islam, just completely separated from the idea of a relationship with him.
Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. That's beautiful. Asma. I'm really glad that we can do this in our halaqah, just share these stories, because this is very much what the Sahaba would do, and the Tabi'een, and those who the Sahaba who lived, in this world beyond the physical life of the Prophet ﷺ. They would just talk about these experiences of a relationship. What happened, and how they felt in a certain moment when the Prophet ﷺ was with them, and what he ﷺ said to them. And so it's really wonderful to cultivate this, because this is the heart of the teaching of Islam. This is where it's all at. And so alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you're talking about such personal things, and that we can do that here. Alhamdulillah.
Funny enough, the first time that I heard about giving special significance to this month is in Saudi Arabia, where one of my cousins was telling me that in the Yemeni community, especially people who are part of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, that she had noticed that they would be really reading the seerah during that time, that they would be thinking about the Prophet ﷺ a lot, and talking a lot about him, telling stories and their favorite stories and sharing that. And I really, really admired that, and was so happy and just so proud, I guess, that there was something like that. And in my mind, it was just such a great opportunity, because I thought of it as just like the time of Ramadan, when even though your relationship with the Quran during the rest of the year might be up and down, during that time it's really like it's a time to pick things up and really re-establish that connection. And subhanallah, human nature is just so it's like the seasons. We really need seasonal reminders, so that we can really shift our focus to something in particular. And so I really, really cherish Ramadan for that time to pick up the Quran guilt-free, because it's like this is the time, and you're just happy that it's here. And it doesn't matter what happened throughout the year in your relationship with the Quran. Like, it's back, it's on. And so I saw that as an opportunity again with the Prophet ﷺ to really mend that relationship and take it one step further that time of the year for the coming year. And alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah.
For a while, I kept on telling myself that I never really wrote to the Prophet ﷺ, and then I don't like the thought. I just remembered now that I remember. I think I was in middle school at the time. I used to be addicted to Amr Khalid and follow his Ramadan programs all the time. And I remember this one year he was talking about how I think on Fridays, I can't remember the days, but I think on Fridays, the Prophet sees what we have done for the week. So then I made it a habit every Thursday I would sit down and talk to the Prophet ﷺ. And it was incredible, because to know that he would see and hear my words to me meant the world. And it was really big to connect with him and to really feel him. It was incredibly powerful, alhamdulillah, and it was a huge moment in my life, because from that point forward, no matter what would happen in my life, I knew that that connection that I had with him, that connected me with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that brought me closer, was all that I needed. And that there was nothing to worry. There's nothing to worry about so long as that was there, and so long as that was being nourished. So it was, subhanAllah, I feel funny, because I've been telling myself, oh, I never thought about, writing to the Prophet ﷺ. And I remember my first experience writing was difficult, because it was really hard to write. And in that experience, I realized that I had no words, because I was writing to a Prophet who, despite being illiterate, knew everything that I needed to say before I even said it. And I think that was in not being able to write, and I'm still hoping to try it again and again, because I really think that there's a benefit in being able to write letters to him, ﷺ, but that there was something special in that connection of not being able to write, because he was a Prophet who wasn't able to read, but that connection was still there. And I think that is incredible, and that is miraculous, and that's it's something to celebrate, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah.
Can I share, Aissa?
Yes, of course. This is a Eid happening here. When did you share last or ever in this class? This is really Maulid season, guys.
So I think the first turning point, and this was a huge privilege, obviously. I went on the rihla with Sheikh Hamza, and we went to Mecca and Medina, and we literally, followed in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, and we prayed in mosques that he prayed in, and we spent a lot of time in Medina, and I spent a lot of time in the Prophet's masjid, and it was the most beautiful experience of my life. It was joyous and filled with light, and I tell everybody that I've had some good naps in my life. Like some really good, I'm a bit of a sleep connoisseur, but I fell asleep one time in the Prophet's masjid, and literally it felt like I was floating with angels. There were like birds tweeting and like light floating in the windows. I still remember it to this day. It really felt like that, really, like you could really just feel the blessing of that city and feel his presence, and it really changed my life. And then the second turning point, I don't know if you know this, but the very first Mawlid that I went to was when Habib Khadim came to Ottawa, and you were there, and I was with Aissa, and after the talk, she's like, there's a Mawlid, there's like a secret Mawlid going on. Do you want to go to it? And I had never been to one, I'd always wanted to go to one, I said, yes, I'm there. And then we went, and it was amazing and beautiful, and nobody could ever tell me ever that there was anything negative about a Mawlid after that experience. It was such a eye-opening experience that really shifted how I thought about my personal connection to the Prophet ﷺ, and shifted it in a way where it became personal and it became a conversation, and yeah, so alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. What beautiful experiences these are, subhanAllah. And that's why I feel that in a way where it's sad that we didn't have, for example, some of these things just as a given in our childhood, that we didn't know that we could relate to the Prophet ﷺ in these ways. But it's also so beautiful to watch how nonetheless, and in spite of all of that, this connection has manifested itself, and through Allah's grace, He's allowed us to experience these things even in our adult years, but I guess with that much more it's that much more poignant when it happens, and it's that much more profound in some sense, because you feel the difference between the before and the after. So this is a huge blessing, and there are so many other people out there who are waiting for that experience, and that each one of us can play that role in facilitating that for people, many people who still feel distant from the Prophet ﷺ, or have doubts about him, or have doubts about even his character or his choices, right? Who are affected by the words of Orientalists who seek to paint a picture of the Prophet ﷺ as, yes, he was wonderful, 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 but if only he hadn't done this, if only he hadn't done that thing. And this kind of poison that is there in books today, and in the way that, so many people have been exposed to the Prophet ﷺ. So each one of us can play this kind of a role, and if that's all you do in your life, then it'll be a life that was worth living, because there's nothing like allowing someone to reconnect to the Rahma that is the Prophet ﷺ, and that will change everything for them. So, alhamdulillah, does anyone else want to share any important turning points for you in your relationship with the Prophet ﷺ? Inshallah, turning points to come this month, inshallah. So, Bismillah, we're on the brink of the month, and inshallah we should, as I said, take these few days to have a khalwa, to have some reflection, some deep reflection about how is my relationship, what's the exact nature of it, do I feel anything in my heart when I hear his name, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? What's the emotion that I have, the dominant emotion towards him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? If there's no emotion, is that because I only have a kind of intellectual relationship with him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Have I not been able to bring to my mind the fact that all of the things that I do on a daily basis that relate to my faith are completely entwined with who he is, sallallahu alayhi wasallam? And the wearing of my hijab right now, it's from the Prophet ﷺ. The fact that we're in a place called a masjid and that it has these qualities is from the Prophet ﷺ. The fact that we know about the names of these prophets here, it's from the Prophet ﷺ. The fact that we have a mushaf, a Quran on the shelf, it's from the Prophet ﷺ. All of these things go through him, and they came through him, and they relate to him. So perhaps what might be holding me back in my feeling of connectedness to him is that I've sort of severed these actions from him in my own mind, and I've made them my own actions. This is my hijab. It was, I chose to wear it, and I'm putting it on. And then as you said, maybe you said it by mistake, Iman, it has nothing to do with him. Everything has something to do with him, is what I'm trying to come back to. Everything that's good comes from him. And in fact, that was one of the major turning points in my life, was when my auntie said those words. Because I had a feeling when I was growing up that there are so many people doing wonderful things. And I was part of an activist community in my university before I went to Syria. And these were people who cared so much about justice, and they cared so much about the environment and all kinds of stuff. And then you had the MSA, which was dull and boring and didn't seem to care about anything or anyone, and all they cared about was making sure that you didn't sit next to a brother in the MSA meeting. I went to one of those meetings. It was so awkward. It was just ajib anyway. So still remember that meeting. Because, you sit next to people in class all the time and you don't even think about it, but suddenly the air is charged because there's a brother who's sitting in the chair, there's a big space, but still he's in the chair next to you there. And anyway, I actually didn't make a big deal about that stuff. I really went along. I'm like, alhamdulillah, we're Muslims, we should all stick together. That's how my dad raised me, alhamdulillah. But the girl that I took with me, hoping to get her involved, was like, what was that? And she's the one who told me all this stuff, like, how could they make us feel so awkward about the fact that we are women and there are men in the meeting, but we're the people who want to do the work for the MSA, so anyway. But I did feel that it was strange that it was these activist groups full of atheist people who cared so much about globalization, who worried so much about people who would be affected by, unjust economic policies. And I remember I went to the MSA and said, look, there is this movement going on our campus, and as Muslims, we should care about these things. And also some of the countries that are going to be worst affected by this particular trade agreement that we were trying to demonstrate against at the time they're Muslim countries. It's Indonesia, it's Malaysia. These are our Muslim brothers and sisters who will be affected by this APEC, agreement. And no, the answer was no, we're not getting involved in that. We don't get involved in stuff like that. We hold Jummah prayers and that's it. So I felt really that how come Muslims are not engaged in good, and how come other people are at the forefront of doing good? And so for me, alhamdulillah, that was a great turning point when my teacher talked about this and said that all the good that you see, you don't have to feel that it belongs to this group or that group. It does come from the Nur Muhammadi. It is coming from the light of the Prophet ﷺ. It is he who brought back those principles into the earth at a time when those things had been neglected. It is he who raised people's morality and inspired people and established these things, and that is his legacy. And it's very real in terms of its origin being the Prophet ﷺ. So it has everything to do with him. And everything that's good has everything to do with him. And so my daily actions have everything to do with the Prophet ﷺ. And so maybe that's an important place to start in order to reconnect to the Prophet ﷺ, because it would be a shame to not thank the person in whose out of whose goodwill you've come into what you've come into. And we tend to make that mistake all the time. All the time. We don't think about those who enabled us to be where we are today. Whether it's our parents, or a grade 9 teacher, or a preschool teacher, or an aunt, or whoever. And sometimes, we're all like that. I'm part of that too. But that's why when I see people doing that, I find it really funny. Sometimes, you think that you played a role in someone's life or helping them out when they were at a point of crisis. And then when you hear them talking about it, you're absent completely from their story. And it's great. I just laugh because I don't feel mad or anything. It's just because I'm the same, unfortunately. We're like that. We forget. But we can't afford to be like that with the Prophet ﷺ. There's too much to lose. And we should try not to be like that with anyone. We should try to remember that we stand on the shoulders of others who've come before us and who've enabled us to be here. And so that's an important place to start, is that to be in that place of shukr, to say, look at all the good that's in my life because of the Prophet ﷺ. And I wouldn't know right from wrong. I wouldn't strive to be a better person. I wouldn't know how to deal with certain people in my life. He's the one who taught me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, drop the argument, even if you're right. Now I wouldn't be able to commit to that. I wouldn't be able to even value that if it hadn't come from him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so much more. That's just one example. So to be able to make sure that you're tracing the khair that you have back through the Prophet ﷺ is one thing that we should start to do. And so in your khalwa, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable you to do that from this point going forward. The second thing is that in this month, inshallah, we should try to do a lot of Salat ala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad is the shortest version. And you can, again, whenever we do dhikr, we can do it based on, especially for an occasion like this, we should do it, we should make a commitment. When we make a commitment to dhikr, there are two ways to make the commitment. Khalwa is the spiritual retreat that we've talked about, and it was one of the first things that we talked about in this class, which is to take time in seclusion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, during which you're not trying to do any other kind of spiritual devotional action, such as reading Quran or praying extra salat, praying extra meditational prayers, or doing dhikr even. We said that khalwa is a time for meditation, contemplation, reflection, and dua. Dua is part of it, because dua is when you speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you speak to God, and you ask Him for His help, and you speak to Him about what it is that troubles you, and what it is that you have hopes about, and what it is that you have fears about, and you reach out to Him. So dua is a part of khalwa, is a part of the retreat, because when you're reflecting on yourself and where you are in your journey to God, you will necessarily have to reach out for His help, because you can't make it on the journey without His help. And when you're in that state of recognizing your shortcomings and recognizing your weaknesses, again, you have to lean on God, otherwise it will become too overwhelming, and it will crush you. The realization of your own faults, and so talking to God about that is important. That's why dua and talking to Allah and asking for His help, it has to be part of the khalwa. So in that seclusion, if you do that, we said that it's good to do it every day. If you can't do it every day, then at least once a week. Try to do that between now and the start of the month of the Mawlid, so that you can come to terms with where you are in your relationship with the Prophet ﷺ, and you can ask Allah for His help, and you can get some sense of direction before you enter into this very special time of blessings and of opportunities, because these are doors that open from the celestial realm. These are doors and windows that open from the heavens, and those who are wise will regard them as such, and will do their best to seek that divine breeze in sincere ways, and there are all kinds of ways to do that. And I said before that we are very lucky, because if we lived in a country like Egypt where everything was already decorated and done for us, then we have to be like super saintly people, and it's all going to be, make sure you do a lot of your salat on Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But here, subhanallah, we have so many ways. Nobody's putting up lights, so you be the one person who puts up lights, and you'll stand out to the angels, not because they care about the physical lights, but because you did something with that intention to show your joy, because God sent His Prophet to the universe. And for your children, and for the guests who will come over during that time, or even just for your own self. So, or if you make a special dish, or if you take something for your neighbors, the field is open. No one else is even competing with you. So in that sense, subhanAllah, we stand in a very, very precious position, because every little thing that you do is a big deal. And Sayyidina Muhammad ﷺ said that whoever revives a sunnah of mine at a time when it's been neglected, that person it's as if they've revived me, it's as if I'm with them. This is just an example of how when things start to dwindle, when the energy of celebration or connection to God is low, and you just do one thing, it's like you've actually revived the entire tradition. So just take your pick of what you would like to do to express your joy, and talk to God about that, and say, this is what I intend to do in this month. So we said to think about how every single good that you have is connected through the Prophet ﷺ to Allah and back into your life. To say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, which means, oh Allah, reach out to the soul of the Prophet, peace be upon him, with peace and blessings, and connect me to him through that expression. Connect my soul to his soul, that's the meaning of Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. The key word is salli. Salli comes from sila. It's like also when we pray, it's the same verb, so it means connection. So we're talking about establishing a connection as we reach out to the Prophet ﷺ, that Allah would honor that and establish a bond and a connection between us and the Prophet ﷺ. And when we say that, as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends back on you 10 times that same blessing that you asked for, and the Prophet ﷺ answers you. So when you engage in this, you're being surrounded by all kinds of light and angelic energy and prophetic blessings. So to do a lot of that in this month. When we do that kind of dhikr means to remind yourself of God. And this is a form of dhikr, because to remind yourself of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is to remind yourself of God. Prophets are prophets because of God. So there's no competition between God and prophets. So when you do this kind of remembrance of God, it's important in Ramadan, in Dhul Hijjah, in the month of the Mawlid, to do it in a way that involves commitment. And at other times you can just, mashallah, just do as much as you can in the day, we can say, or, you know, alhamdulillah, when you're cooking or when you're walking to the bus stop, just say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad as much as you can and leave it at that. But at special times, it's important to actually form a commitment and to strive towards a particular level of devotion. And we can do that in two ways, either by committing time or committing about a number. So you can decide, I'm going to do 10 minutes every day of Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, or more than 10. Or you can say, I'm going to try to do every single day 500. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad, just 5 times around one of these. And that really is important to do, as I said, at a time when the door is being opened. It's a way of showing that you're answering that invitation. And finally, one more thing that we should do, or 2 more things that we should do during this month. The next one is that we should try to attend the gatherings where the Prophet ﷺ is being honored and celebrated and talked about. This is a sunnah that was started by the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, who would gather their children at this time of year and talk to their children about all the signs that took place at the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. The way things happened, the way that the stars came so close to the earth, the way that the fires of the Majus, the Zoroastrian people, just that fire that had burned for thousands of years went out in a flash. All of these different signs, the signs that the mother of the Prophet ﷺ saw, the way she saw the castles of Byzantium and Sham, all of these things, they would talk to their children. They would have a circle during this month and they would talk about this. So that was the first mawlid. That was the first mawlid. And so this is a sunnah to engage in this, to come together and to tell those stories again and to allow our hearts to feel joy at this divine manifestation of God's glory. And the last thing is try to think of something that you want to do to express your joy and to bring joy to someone else. So we mentioned like putting up lights, or if you know some of those molded candy recipes, you can make something. In different countries they have different things. In Tunisia they have a particular kind of a pudding that they make, which is really wonderful. And it's only made at this time of year. So you can start your own tradition if you want. I mean, it's up to you, but do it with intentionality. And often what people who criticize the Mawlid are criticizing is the mindlessness that some people adopt for these occasions, which is a fair criticism, right? If we only make Mawlid candy just because, then that's not valuable anymore. The key is in intentionality and doing things with a purpose. So, do something like that, which will bring joy to your family, joy to your own heart. Buy yourself a new outfit or something, if that's what it is. That was for you. You woke up. I had to wake her up. She was. That was a gift. That was just a gift there for Fatiha. Yeah. let her have some part. Let her have some part.
What?
Mawlid is for everyone. Alhamdulillah. And finally, one last thing. And now I've given you a lot, but one final thing is something that one of my teachers always used to say in Syria when we would go to a Mawlid celebration. So she would say, you know, when you come to a birthday party, you have to bring a gift for the person whose birthday it is. So what gift are you gonna bring for the Prophet ﷺ? What part of yourself do you need to bring to him that you haven't brought? What is the thing that you know would make him pleased that you're still not doing and that you're resisting? And that you know the time has come that you need to be fixing this. This relationship with your mom, that if he saw it, he would be saddened. And of course we know he sees these things every Friday, he sees what's going on with you. But that were you to actually acknowledge the fact that he's seeing this, you wouldn't continue in that way. Or your relationship with your husband, or your relationship with your wife, or your relationship with Quran, whatever it is, make a gift for the Prophet ﷺ during this month and start to prepare it. Start to prepare it now so you can present it to him, inshallah, before the end of the month. And please, when you come to the gatherings, even our weekly mawlid, if you've done Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, if you've asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the days in between to put light into that connection that you have to him and his family, peace and blessings of God be upon them all, then you will find for yourself a completely different experience in that gathering with other people. Suddenly it will have a different feeling to it. A deepened sense of connection will be there. And also you will be bringing that. It's like you're bringing, cups of water. Everyone's coming with cups of water and filling this pool. And now the pool is like, mashallah, overflowing because everyone's coming with their good energy. And all of us together with all our salawat together, now it's like a fountain. Alhamdulillah. So we have to come like that, inshallah, during this month. Bring the best of what you have in terms of your connection and your joy and your love. Bring, better food than you usually bring to our potluck. Do these things for the sake of the Prophet ﷺ, not because he needs our food or anything like that, but because we need to feel something for him, and we need to know that honoring him is recognized by Allah as something valuable and great in us, and it will be our means, inshallah, to become close to the Prophet ﷺ in the akhirah and in this life as well, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. I'm ending here. Ithar had something to say?
Something quick. I had a conversation. Something quick. I had a friend who had converted, and she said her husband was actually complaining that she carried a whole palm tree to the apartment. She said, well, my kids will have a Christmas tree at their grandparents, and they'll have a palm tree at home for the Mawlid. So it was so cute. And he was complaining how much she spent on it and how much, it was just really funny.
And she was a convert and he was a born Muslim.
Oh, yeah. He's like, she wouldn't tell me how much she paid for this.
MashaAllah.
Can we get a palm tree? Oh, we have a palm tree! You can decorate this thing.
Yeah, if you find it decorated next week, you'll know who did that. Alhamdulillah. Barakallahu fikum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decorate our hearts, inshallah, with love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of recognition of his greatness, of glorification of his beauty, of celebration of God's grace upon us in sending us all the prophets, Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, Prophet Adam, Prophet Abraham, Prophet Noah, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this blessed chain of beauty and light and goodness that allows us to be elevated, that gives us a path to the heavens. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, O Allah, O you who is most loving and who loves us unconditionally, allow us to have a desire to pursue that path and to pursue that staircase of light to the heavens. O Allah, make our hearts lean towards that, make that be our desire. O Allah, make our hearts turn from the passing fantasies of this earthly existence and turn completely and truly to you and seek only your beauty and seek only your greatness and seek only your joy in you. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, Ya Allah. O God, we are so weak and you are so strong. We lean upon your strength. We celebrate your strength. We recognize our weakness. We celebrate the fact that you have not punished us because we are weak, and we celebrate the fact that you are ever supportive of us. Oh God, we ask for your support. We ask for your help. We ask for your love. We ask for increase of all the blessings you've given us. We thank you for all the blessings. Oh Allah, allow our children to be happy during this month, and allow us to be bridges that bring others closer to this happiness and this joy. Allow us to be willing to lay ourselves down like a bridge lays itself down so others can walk upon it to find their way. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Allah, allow us to see the honor in that. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Allah, use us always for the good. Oh Allah, make us instruments of your peace. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Wa salatu salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Sayyid al-Mursaleen, fi kulli waqtin wa heen. Oh Allah, all praise belongs to you. We glorify your name, and in every moment and every time we celebrate your goodness, O Allah, and we recite to the honor of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the prayer of guidance, Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Ameen. Barakallahu fikum.
Allahu ya Allahu, Allahu ya Rahim, Allahu ya Allahu, Allahu ya Kareem. Of you, my Lord, I'm asking the gate.